Greetings and welcome. Today we're wrapping up our series of devotionals this week, looking at a passage in the book of Acts and the story of the disciple Tabitha, also known as Dorcas. Speaking of being known as a name, my wife, when my grandson Brett was born, she said that she wanted to be known as Nona. That's the name she wanted to be known as the grandmother. She didn't want to be called Grammy or Nana. Nona, I think it's an Italian form of the word Nana or something like that. And anyway, she asked me, "Well, Bob? What do you want to be known as?" And I said, "Bob." Just Bob. I mean, maybe I'll change my mind when I get older, but for right now, Bob is just fine. I'm not really big on titles. In fact, even though I work as a pastor, I'm be perfectly content if nobody really called me Pastor Bob, if people would just call me Bob. That's certainly fine with me. Kind of a funny story. When I was first authorized to become a minister, I went back to my church that I had come from, my first UCC church, Heidelberg UCC. Some of my friends and fellow churchgoers said to me, "Well, Bob, now that you're authorized in ministry, what do you want to be known as?" And I said, "Well, I'm very humble. Just call me your most high excellency," or something like that. Of course, I was kidding. I said, "Just please call me Bob." But in the church, there are people who are sort of big on titles. Let's be honest. Even though we're called to be humble, some authorized ministers, ordained pastors, like all the letters behind their name and all the titles. And even in the United Church of Christ, where we're known to be pretty progressive and liberal, well, we still have church hierarchies in place. In the book of Acts, I mentioned in yesterday's devotional that Tabitha was known for caring for the widows. Well, in another chapter, in chapter 6, I believe, the early church actually goes through the process of calling and giving titles to 7 men that they call as deacons of the church, an official title. And their official responsibility is to care for the widows in their community. Now, we never really hear how well they did, but since they're never really mentioned again, I assume that their efforts weren't particularly noteworthy. Tabitha, on the other hand, she's made a big deal out of for her care of the widows. She has had quite an influence and impact on her community, on this group of women who have needed her help. But the ironic thing is she's never been named as any kind of a deacon or title. She's never formally been given any kind of responsibility. And I think that's a good lesson for us. It says on our bulletins here at Forks UCC that we're all considered ministers of the church. And it's worth remembering that ministry is not about the recognition and titles, but it's about the impact and influence we have on the lives of others. Amen. you.